The chamber hung in the darkness between stars, a massive structure made of crystal and metal that glowed with its own strange light. Inside, thousands of alien beings sat in circular rows, all of them staring down at the single human standing in the center. Captain Do-hyun wore his dress uniform, the dark blue fabric pressed and clean, but he felt small under so many eyes. Some of those eyes had 3 lids. Others glowed in colors humans had no names for. A few belonged to creatures that looked like they should not be alive at all. The translation field hummed around him, turning every alien language into Korean in his ears. He had been standing here for 6 hours now, while the council presented their case against humanity. 6 hours of accusations, 6 hours of evidence that made his people sound like monsters. Ambassador Haejin sat in the human section far above him, her face carefully neutral. She had warned him this would happen. 3 months ago, she had sent a message to Earth saying the council was afraid. Not angry, afraid. That should have been their first clue. The speaker of the council rose from the highest seat. It was a Vorthian, a species that looked like a column of water held together by silver rings. Its voice came through the translator as smooth and cold. The evidence is complete. Humanity has violated the covenant of peaceful expansion in 23 separate instances. They have colonized worlds at a rate that disturbs the galactic order. They have built weapons far beyond what is necessary for defense. They have refused to share their technology with the Council. Most concerning of all, they adapt to hostile environments with a speed that suggests genetic manipulation or worse. Do-hyun wanted to laugh. Genetic manipulation. They thought humans were dangerous because they could live on different worlds, because they built good ships, because they wanted to explore and grow like every other species in the galaxy. The only difference was that humans did it faster. Captain Do-hyun, the speaker continued, you may present humanity's defense. He had prepared a speech. Haejin had written it with him. Carefully crafted words that might change a few minds. He looked down at the datapad in his hand, then turned it off. Those words would not save them. Nothing would. He could see it in the way the aliens looked at him. They had already decided. You call us aggressive, Do-hyun said, his voice carrying through the chamber. But we have never started a war with any council species. You call us dangerous because we colonize quickly, but every world we settled was unclaimed, empty. We broke no laws. You say we build too many weapons. But we have only defended ourselves against pirates and raiders. We have asked for council protection and received none. So, we protected ourselves. He turned slowly, looking up at the rows of aliens. You say we adapt too quickly. That is not a crime. That is survival. Humans come from a world that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. Ice, ages, plagues, predators. We learned to adapt or die. That is who we are. And now you punish us for being good at surviving. The chamber was silent. Do-hyun felt sweat on his back despite the cool air. He continued. You are not afraid that we are violent. You are afraid that we are too successful, that we might become stronger than you. That is the real reason we stand here today. The speaker's form rippled. Anger, perhaps, or maybe amusement. Humanity's nature is precisely why this council must act. You admit you survive by adapting, by overcoming, by growing stronger. What happens when you grow too strong? When you decide the council's laws no longer apply to you? We have seen species like yours before. They all believed they were special. They all became threats. Then punish us for crimes we commit, Do-hyun said. Not for crimes you imagine we might commit someday. The vote will now commence, the speaker announced, ignoring his words. Lights began to glow throughout the chamber as each council member cast their vote. Green for allowing humanity to remain. Red for banishment. Do-hyun watched the red lights multiply. One after another. Some entire sections voted red in unison. Their minds already made up before the trial even began. The final count appeared in the air above him. 721. to 126. Red, overwhelming green. Banishment. Ambassador Heijin closed her eyes. On Earth, millions watching the broadcast went silent. In the orbital shipyards above their homeworld, a young engineer named Taejin stopped working and stared at the screen. Everyone, everywhere, stopped and stared. The speaker's voice cut through the silence. Humanity is hereby banished from galactic civilization. All colonies outside the Sol system must be abandoned within 10 standard years. A barrier field will be constructed around your system. No ships may enter or leave. Any violation will result in immediate destruction. This council will have no further contact with humanity. You are alone. Do-hyun felt his hands shake. He forced them still. Heijin had told him that no matter what happened, he had to show strength. Humans could not appear weak. Not now. Not when the whole galaxy was watching. Before we go, Do-hyun said, his voice steady, I want you all to remember something. You fear what you cannot control. You mistake our ambition for aggression. You look at us and see barbarians who might threaten your comfortable order. But you are making a mistake. He pointed upward, toward where Earth lay, beyond the crystal walls. Humanity has survived ice ages. Plagues that killed half our population. Wars that should have destroyed us. We have faced extinction a dozen times and we are still here. We survived when we had nothing but stone tools and fire. We survived when we were scattered across one small planet, with no way to reach the stars. Do you really think a barrier will stop us? Do you really think isolation will make us weaker? The speaker said nothing. The council members watched with their alien eyes. Do-hyun smiled. And it was not a friendly smile. You could have made us your allies. You could have welcomed us as equals. Instead, you chose to cage us. That is your mistake. Because humanity does not break when you put us in a cage. We adapt. We endure. We find a way to overcome every obstacle you put in our path. A barrier is just another obstacle. And we have never met one we could not break through. 4. We know. RRR. We know. We know. We find a way we could not break through. He straightened his uniform. Someday, we will meet again. And when that day comes, you will realize that isolation did not weaken us. It only gave us time to grow stronger, without your rules holding us back. Remember that you chose this, not us. The chamber erupted in noise. Alien voices raised in anger and fear and confusion. The speaker gestured, and Do-hyun felt himself lifted by a gravity field, pulled up and away toward the exit. Heijin was already being escorted out. Their ship would take them home to a cage. The barrier field activated 3 days later. Taejin watched from the orbital shipyard as the sky changed color. The stars disappeared behind a shimmer of energy that wrapped around the entire Sol system. Earth, Mars, Jupiter. All of it sealed away from the rest of the galaxy. He felt tears on his face, but he did not wipe them away. Around him, other engineers and workers stood silent. Admiral Sun Woo's face appeared on every screen in the system. She was old, her hair gray, but her eyes were hard. This is not the end, she said. This is only the beginning. They think they have contained us. They have only freed us from their rules. Starting today, we build. We prepare. And someday, we will show them what humanity can do when we are truly united. Get to work. Taejin looked at the barrier one more time, then turned back to his workstation. Around him, millions of humans did the same. They had work to do. They had an empire to build. 50 years had passed since the barrier sealed humanity inside their home system. 50 years of silence from the galaxy beyond. 50 years of building. Director Nari stood in front of the window of the research station orbiting Venus and watched the construction drones work on the planet below. Thousands of them, maybe millions, moving in perfect coordination as they built atmospheric processors across the toxic surface. Venus, was slowly being transformed, not into a garden world like Earth, but into something useful. Something that could support human industry and human ambition. She was 70 years old now, but the age treatments kept her body strong. She had been 20 when the barrier went up. Young enough to remember the fear and anger. Old enough to understand that fear and anger were useless without action. That was why she founded the Prometheus Initiative. That was why she had spent 50 years pushing humanity to evolve faster than any species in galactic history. Her assistant brought her the daily reports. Mercury was 98% stripped now, its materials feeding the construction yards on Luna. Mars had 800 million people living in domed cities and underground habitats, with terraforming at 67% completion. The asteroid belt was no longer a belt at all. It was a network of habitat stations and weapons platforms. Every rock, larger than a kilometer, hollowed out and put to use. Earth itself had 15 billion people now. Too many, some said. But Director Nari disagreed. Every human was a mind that could solve problems. Every human was a pair of hands that could build. Humanity needed numbers if they were going to survive what came next. Dr. Yongsun is requesting a meeting, her assistant said. He says it is urgent. She smiled. When Yongsun said something was urgent, it usually meant he had done something impossible. She took the transit pod across the orbital web to the research complex where Yongsun worked. He met her at the door, practically bouncing with excitement despite being nearly 80 years old. We cracked it, he said without greeting. The barrier. We understand how it works. Nari felt her heart beat faster. Show me. The lab was full of screens and holographic displays, showing equations that hurt to look at. Yongsun pulled up a simulation of the barrier field. It is not a wall. It is a frequency. A specific energy pattern that disrupts any matter trying to pass through it. The Council designed it to be permanent and unbreakable. But, Nari prompted, but they made one mistake. Energy patterns fluctuate. It is physics. You cannot maintain perfect stability across an entire star system forever. We have been monitoring the barrier for 50 years, and we found it. Every 17.3 hours, the field weakens for exactly 4.2 seconds. Nari stared at the simulation. 4 seconds. It was not much time, but it was enough. Can we pass a ship through in 4 seconds? With the right drive system, yes. But there is another problem. The barrier has automated defenses. Any ship trying to pass through will be fired upon. We estimate a 70% chance of destruction, even if we time it perfectly. 70%. Those were not good odds. But they were better than zero. How many ships would we need to send to guarantee at least one gets through? Yongsun did the math in his head. 12 ships. If we send 12 through different weak points simultaneously, probability says at least 8 will survive. 12 ships, 12 crews willing to take a 70% chance of death. Nari knew there would be volunteers. Humanity had changed in 50 years of isolation. They had become harder, more determined. The comfortable life of being part of galactic civilization was gone. Now there were only humans who wanted to survive, and humans who wanted to thrive. The ones who wanted to thrive would volunteer. She left Yongsun's lab and took a pod to the military complex on Luna. Admiral Sunwoo had died 10 years ago. But her successor, Admiral Taeyang, was just as fierce. The Admiral listened to Nari's report without interruption. 12 ships? Taeyang said when she finished. We need to build ships that can break through the barrier and survive whatever is on the other side. Ships that can establish colonies in hostile space. How long? 20 years, Nari said. Maybe 25. We need new drive systems, better weapons. Life support that can function in places the Council species cannot go. Then we start now. But not everyone agreed. Councillor Unha represented the isolationist faction in Earth's government. She believed humanity should stay in the Sol system forever, building a civilization so strong that the Council could never threaten them again. She believed the barrier was not a prison, but a shield. The debate raged for months. Town halls on every human world. Arguments in the government chambers. Protests in the streets of the Mars colonies. Director Nari spoke everywhere she could, explaining that isolation was slow death. That humanity needed to expand or stagnate. Commander Bora provided the evidence that tipped the scales. She led the Shadow Fleet, a group of experimental stealth ships designed to study the barrier without being detected. During a routine survey mission, her ship discovered something that changed everything. The barrier is weakening, she reported to the full council. Not just the 4-second fluctuations. The entire structure is degrading. Slowly, but measurably. We estimate it will fail completely in 200 to 300 years. Counselor Unha seized on this. Then we have time. We can wait for it to fall naturally. No. Bora said firmly. When it falls, the council will know. They will come to check on us. And if we are still trapped in this one system after 300 years, what do you think they will do? They will see us as contained, as safe. They might even decide to make sure we stay contained forever. She pulled up tactical displays. But if we break out now, if we establish colonies in places they cannot reach, then when the barrier falls, we will already be an empire. We will be too spread out to eliminate. That is the only way we survive. The vote was called. Every human in the Sol system was allowed to vote directly. 11.2 billion voted to break through the barrier. 3.8 billion voted to stay. Democracy had spoken. Director Nari was given unlimited resources and authority. The Prometheus Initiative became the largest project in human history. On Luna, in the asteroid habitats, in hidden facilities in the Kuiper Belt, they built the Pathfinder fleet. Each Pathfinder was more than a ship. It was a mobile colony, carrying everything needed to establish human civilization in hostile space. 10,000 people in cryo-sleep. Manufacturing equipment that could bootstrap an industrial base from raw materials. Weapons that could defend against anything the Council might send. And most importantly, drives that could punch through the barrier and keep going. Taejin had become one of the chief engineers on the project. He was 70 now, but his hands were still steady. He had spent his entire adult life building ships, and this was his masterpiece. He stood on the observation deck of the Kuiper facility and watched as the 12th Pathfinder was completed. The ships were beautiful in their own way. Not elegant like Council vessels. Brutal. Functional. Built to survive and conquer. Each one was 3 kilometers long, armored with materials that could withstand impacts from relativistic debris. Each one carried weapons that would make Council militaries nervous. They are ready, Taejin reported to Director Nari. She looked at the ships and felt pride and fear mixed together. Pride at what humanity had built. Fear at what might happen to the crews. Select the volunteers. Prioritize people who have family willing to go with them. We are not just sending soldiers. We are sending seeds. Each Pathfinder needs to be able to grow into a full colony. The selection process took months. In the end, they had their crews. Captain Jiwon would command Pathfinder 7. She was 40 years old. Born in the first decade after the barrier went up, she had never seen the stars beyond their prison. None of her crew had. They knew the galaxy only through old records and transmissions from before the banishment. On the day of departure, Director Nari spoke to all 12 crews simultaneously. You are carrying humanity's future with you. The Council tried to cage us. You will prove that humans cannot be caged. Find worlds they think are worthless. Build colonies they think are impossible. Show them that their greatest mistake was leaving us alone to grow strong. Good luck. Come home when you can. The Pathfinders launched in sequence, targeting 12 different weak points in the barrier during the fluctuation window. Nari watched the telemetry with her heart in her throat. 8 made it through clean. 4 were caught by the defensive systems and destroyed in flashes of light that registered through the barrier. 40,000 people died in those 4 ships. 40,000 lives gone in seconds. But 80,000 survived and were now beyond the barrier, racing into unknown space. On Earth, people gathered in the streets and looked up at the sky. The barrier still glowed above them, but somewhere beyond it, humans were free. Somewhere out there, humanity was building an empire. Counselor Yunha gave a speech calling it a waste, a tragedy. Commander Bora gave a speech calling it a beginning. Admiral Taeyang simply said, 8 crews made it. That is enough. Now we wait and prepare for their return. Director Nari returned to her office and allowed herself to cry. Captain Jiwon woke from cryosleep with ice in her lungs and fire in her veins. The transition was always painful, but she forced herself to stay conscious as the medical systems flooded her body with stabilizers. Around her, the rest of the command crew was waking up in their own pods. They had been asleep for 3 months, while the automated systems piloted Pathfinder 7 away from the Sol system. Status, she croaked, her voice rough from disuse. The ship's AI responded immediately. We are 470 light-years from Sol. Current location is uncharted. Long-range sensors detect no Council monitoring stations. No active ships within detection range. We are alone. Alone. The word should have been frightening, but Jiwon smiled. Alone meant safe. Alone meant free. She pulled herself out of the cryopod and made her way to the bridge, her body slowly remembering how to move. Lieutenant Hyunwoo was already there, studying the sensor data. He looked up as she entered. Captain, we have a problem. How bad? Not bad. Interesting. Look at this. He pulled up a 3-dimensional map of nearby space. We are in a region the Council classified as uninhabitable. High radiation, unstable stars, resource poor. They surveyed it 2,000 years ago and never came back. Jiwon studied the map. To Council eyes, this region was worthless. But she saw something else. That nebula. It is massive, 8 light-years across. Filled with heavy radiation and magnetic anomalies. Council ships would need constant shielding just to survive in there. It would drain their power reserves too quickly to be worth exploring. But our ships are built for radiation, Jiwon said. We designed them that way specifically to go places. Council species cannot. Hyunwoo grinned. Exactly. And look what is inside the nebula. 3 systems. The Council sensors barely penetrated deep enough to map them. They have no idea what resources might be there. Ji-won made her decision immediately. Plot a course. We are going in. Sung-ho, their civilian xenoanthropologist, objected. Captain, the mission parameters were to find a habitable world and establish a colony, not to explore dangerous nebulae. The mission parameters were to survive, Ji-won corrected. The Council is going to come looking for us. They will search every habitable world first. But they will not waste time searching regions they think are worthless. The nebula is perfect. They entered the nebula 6 days later. The radiation levels immediately spiked, but the ship's shielding held. Ji-won watched the sensor readings with satisfaction. A Council ship would be cooking from the inside right now. Pathfinder 7 barely noticed. The first system they surveyed was useless. A dying star, with nothing but gas giants too close to the radiation source. The second system had promise but no solid worlds. The third system made Ji-won laugh out loud. It is perfect, Hyunwoo said, disbelief in his voice. How did they miss this? Hyunwoo, the star was a red dwarf, small and cool but stable. 3 rocky planets orbited it, and all 3 had mineral signatures that made the sensors light up. The second planet was the prize, slightly larger than Mars. Atmosphere thin but present. Temperature range harsh, but survivable with proper equipment. And most importantly, 3 moons rich in heavy metals and rare elements. The nebula hides it, Sung-ho realized. The radiation interference. The Council's sensors could not penetrate deep enough to get accurate readings. They probably thought this was just another dead system. Land us, Jiwan ordered. We are home. They named the planet New Busan, after the city on Earth where Jiwan's grandmother had been born. The colony construction began immediately. 10,000 people came out of cryosleep in waves, each group with specific skills and tasks. Engineers, farmers, soldiers, scientists, teachers. Everyone needed to build a civilization from nothing. The first structures were underground, carved into the rock of the planet's largest continent. Protection from the radiation. Protection from potential orbital strikes. The humans had learned to think defensively. On the surface, automated mining drones began extracting resources. Within 3 months, they had a functioning industrial base. Within 6 months, they had a small shipyard. Jiwan sent a quantum-entangled message back to the Sol system. The technology was new, developed specifically for this mission. It would let them communicate instantaneously across any distance. Colony. Established. New Busan is operational. Beginning Phase 2. The response came back minutes later, from Director Nari. Confirmed. 6 other Pathfinders report successful colony establishment. Pathfinder 12 is still in transit. Status of Pathfinder 11, unknown. Begin construction of defensive network. Council response expected within 2 years. Jiwan shared the news with her crew. 7 colonies. 7 seeds of humanity planted in the darkness beyond Council space. It was a good start, but the Council found them faster than expected. Councillor Vren, a military commander from the Kuldrith warrior species, had been given authority to hunt down the escaped humans. He commanded 3 enforcement fleets, each with over 100 ships. His orders were simple. Find the humans and destroy them. The first contact came 15 months after the Pathfinders broke through the barrier. A Council patrol ship stumbled across Pathfinder 12 while it was still in transit to its destination. The Pathfinder tried to run, but the Council ship was faster. It fired a spread of antimatter missiles and turned the human ship into expanding plasma. 10,000 more humans died. The other colonies received the warning through the quantum network. The Council was hunting them. Admiral Taeyang's message from Seoul was brief. Go dark. Hide. Survive. The colonies shut down all electromagnetic emissions. They communicated only through quantum entanglement, which the Council could not detect. They built their industrial bases underground and camouflaged everything on the surface. They became ghosts. Councillor Vren grew frustrated. His fleets searched, system after system, but found nothing. The humans had disappeared into regions of space his ships could not safely navigate. Nebulae. Radiation zones. Systems with unstable stars. Places that would kill his crews before they found anything useful. He began a new strategy. His fleets started destroying any human ship they encountered outside the colonies. Merchant vessels. Scout ships. Even unarmed transports. Vren declared humanity to be cosmic vermin that needed to be exterminated. His speeches were broadcast across Council space. He talked about the human threat, the danger of letting them spread, the necessity of total eradication. Some Council species cheered him on, others remained silent, but uncomfortable. A few spoke against the brutality, but quietly, where it would not cost them politically. On New Busan, Jiwan watched the broadcasts and felt her anger grow. They had done nothing wrong. They had claimed empty worlds, built colonies in places no one wanted, and for that, they were being hunted like animals. We need to fight back, Lieutenant Hyunwoo said during a strategy meeting. With what? Sungho asked. We have 1 colony, 1 shipyard, maybe 24 combat-capable vessels. Vren has 3 fleets. We have something he does not. Jiwan said quietly. We can go places his ships cannot. We can survive in conditions that would kill his crews. And we know how to fight. When we are outnumbered, humans have been doing that for thousands of years. She pulled up a star map, showing all 7 surviving colonies. Each one was hidden in a hostile region of space. Each one was building ships and weapons. Each one was training soldiers. We do not need to beat them in open battle. We need to make it too costly for them to keep hunting us. We need to show them that every human ship they destroy costs them 3 of their own. We need to make them afraid. The strategy became known as the Doctrine of Thorns. Human ships would avoid direct confrontation, but would strike at Council patrols when they had the advantage. Ambushes in asteroid fields, attacks from within nebulae, hit-and-run raids that left Council ships crippled and drifting. Never a fair fight. Never giving the enemy a chance to use their superior numbers. The first successful raid happened 6 months later. A Council patrol of 4 ships was tracking what they thought was a human merchant vessel. They followed it into a dense asteroid field near New Busan. The merchant ship was a decoy. 20 human fighters were hiding among the asteroids, their hulls painted to match the rock. They waited until the Council ships were surrounded, then opened fire. 3 Council ships were destroyed in the opening salvo. The 4th managed to send a distress signal before it was hit by a spread of missiles. No survivors. No prisoners. Just debris drifting among the asteroids. Counselor Vren's response was predictable. He sent more ships. Larger fleets. He declared that any system where humans were found would be sterilized completely. No mercy. No quarter. But the humans were learning. Each colony specialized in different technologies based on their environment. New Busan developed better armor and weapons. Ghostwater Colony, built on a moon with seas of liquid methane, pioneered stealth systems. Ironforge Station, in the metallic asteroid field, created the most advanced manufacturing systems. Each colony contributed. Each colony grew stronger. And then they received a message that changed everything. It came through the quantum network, but not from any human colony. The encryption was different. The signal structure was alien. "We are the Vrelian Consensus," the message said. "We have observed your conflict with the Council. We wish to speak." Ji-won sat in her command chair and stared at the message for a long time. First contact with an alien species. Not the Council, but someone else. Someone who had been watching. "Should we respond?" Hyunwoo asked. "Yes," Ji-won said, "but carefully. We do not know if they are friends or enemies." She composed a simple reply. "We are listening." The response came back hours later. "We are like you. Banished, restricted, punished for being too successful. The Council fears species that grow too quickly. We have been trapped in one system for 800 years. But we have seen what you did. You escaped. Perhaps we can help each other." Ji-won smiled. They were not alone after all. 25 years after the Pathfinders broke through the barrier, humanity had changed. The 7 colonies had grown into 47. Each one was built in places the Council considered worthless or too dangerous to bother with. Each one contributed something unique to humanity's growing strength. High Coordinator Suji stood in the command center of New Busan and looked at the holographic map showing all human territories. She had been elected leader of what they now called the Independent Human Territories. It was a strange title for a strange situation. They were not really independent because no one recognized their existence. They were refugees, building an empire in the shadows. "Report from Ghostwater," her assistant said. "They have successfully tested the new stealth coating. Council sensors cannot detect our ships until we are within weapons range." Suji nodded. Ghostwater Colony had become their center for stealth technology. The planet was a frozen moon, orbiting a gas giant, its surface covered in seas of liquid methane. The extreme cold made it perfect for testing systems that needed to minimize heat signatures. The colonists there had adapted to the environment in ways that still surprised the medical researchers. They could survive longer in vacuum than normal humans. Their cold tolerance was extraordinary. "What about Scorched Haven?" she asked. General Jihoon reports, the new thermal weapons are ready for field testing. Scorched Haven was the opposite of Ghostwater, a planet so close to its star that surface temperatures could melt lead. The colonists lived underground, but they had learned to weaponize the extreme heat. They built cannons that could focus thermal energy into beams capable of cutting through ship hulls. They trained soldiers who could fight in temperatures that would cook any other species. Every colony had its specialty. Ironforge Station built the best weapons. The Deep Vault stored all of humanity's knowledge and history, buried inside a rogue planet where no one would ever find it. New Busan remained the political and military center. Together, they formed something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. But Suji's greatest achievement was not the colonies. It was the Alliance of the Free. Ambassador Minho had been making contact with other species for years. Not council members, the outcasts, the banished, the species the council had suppressed, or restricted, or punished for being different. He found them everywhere once he knew where to look. The Vrelians were a hive mind species. Billions of individual organisms that shared one consciousness. The council had restricted them to one system because their efficiency scared the other species. They could build in days what took others months. They could solve problems by thinking with a billion minds at once. The Nomarchs were silicon-based lifeforms. They lived on worlds with environments that would instantly kill carbon-based species. The council officially classified them as non-sentient resources and mined their planets for minerals while they watched helplessly. The Eshkari were refugees whose homeworld had been colonized by a council species. They had fought back and lost. Now, they lived on whatever worlds would take them, second-class citizens in their own galaxy. Minho found 23 species in total. All of them had been hurt by the council in one way or another. All of them had reasons to hate the current galactic order, and all of them were willing to work with humanity. The Alliance of the Free was formed in a secret meeting on New Busan. 23 species, agreeing to cooperate, to share technology, to defend each other, to build something better than what the council offered. We have resources, the Vrelian representative said through a translator. We have knowledge, but we have no territory. We are trapped. We have territory, Suji replied. Places the council will not go. You can colonize there. We will help you escape your system. It took 2 years, but they did it. Human ships broke the Vrelian barrier using the same techniques that had freed humanity. Suddenly, the Alliance had billions of new members. The Vrelians began building colonies on worlds humans found too hot or too cold or too toxic. They built faster than anyone expected. Within 5 years, they had 30 colonies of their own. The Nomarchs were given worlds of molten rock and heavy metals, places where they thrived while any organic being would die instantly. They began mining operations that dwarfed anything the Council had ever achieved. The Eshkari were given safe harbor on human worlds and mixed colonies where multiple species lived together. They brought their agricultural knowledge and their understanding of genetic engineering. The Alliance grew. 34 systems, then 50, then 100. Not all of them were human, but all of them were free. The Council noticed, of course. Councillor Vren's speeches became more desperate. He called the Alliance an existential threat. He demanded more ships, more resources, more authority to hunt down and destroy every colony. Some council members agreed with him. Others were starting to have doubts. We have been fighting these humans for 25 years, one council member said during a debate. They have gone from 7 colonies to 47. From nothing to an alliance of 23 species. When does it become clear that extermination is not working? When we let them live, they grow stronger. Vren countered. The only solution is total war. We must commit the full might of the Council to destroying them before they become unstoppable. The debate continued for months. Finally, the Council made a decision. Vren was given 400 warships and orders to destroy the human colonies once and for all. It was the largest military fleet assembled in 300 years. Enough firepower to sterilize planets. Enough to end the human problem permanently. Suji received the intelligence report from Ghostwater's spy network. 400 ships. Coming for them. She called an emergency meeting of all colony leaders and alliance members. They are going to hit us hard, General Ji-hoon said. He commanded the Terran Legion, humanity's unified military force. We have maybe 80 combat-ready ships across all colonies. We are outnumbered 5-1. Worse, Suji said. We are outnumbered in every category. Bigger ships, better shields, more experienced crews. If we fight them in open space, we lose. Then we do not fight them in open space, Captain Jiwon said. She was older now, her hair gray, but still sharp. We fight them on our terms. In environments where their advantages become disadvantages. The plan was simple but brutal. Vren's fleet would be allowed to penetrate deep into human territory. They would be allowed to reach Scorched Haven, one of humanity's most exposed colonies. The planet was valuable, but not critical. And most importantly, it was a trap. The Council fleet arrived at Scorched Haven with confidence. 400 ships dropping out of FTL in perfect formation. They found a small human colony on a planet orbiting dangerously close to a red giant star. The population was evacuated, but the infrastructure remained. Vren gave the order to begin bombardment. That was when everything went wrong for the Council. The planet itself opened fire. Not defensive stations. The planet. Massive thermal cannons built into the crust focused the star's heat into lances of pure energy. Council ships started dying immediately, their shields unable to handle thermal weapons of that magnitude. Human ships emerged from hiding spots in the star's corona. Small fighters that had been waiting in temperatures that would vaporize Council vessels. They swarmed the fleet, targeting engines and weapon systems. The colonists who had supposedly evacuated revealed themselves. They had not left. They had retreated to underground bunkers and were now launching ground-based missiles. Humans who had been adapted to survive on Scorched Haven could fight in their spacesuits on the planet's surface where the temperature was hot enough to melt metal. Vren tried to retreat, but human ships had seeded the system with mines during the approach. Council vessels ran into them as they tried to escape, causing more casualties. The battle lasted 6 days. When it ended, the Council had lost 73 ships. Hundreds of thousands of crew dead. Vren's flagship was crippled, but survived. The humans lost 12 ships and 14,000 colonists who had stayed behind to operate the planetary weapons. It was the first major human victory in open battle. News spread across the galaxy through channels the Council could not control. The humans had beaten a fleet 5 times their size. The Alliance of the Free had proven it could defend itself. General Ji-hoon broadcast a message on all frequencies. It was addressed to the Council, but meant for the entire galaxy to hear. You banished us because you thought we were dangerous. You tried to cage us because you thought we were too ambitious. Then you hunted us because you feared we would become too strong. Every step of the way, you made the same mistake. You treated us as a threat that needed to be eliminated. You never considered that we might have been allies if you had shown us respect. He paused, letting his words sink in. You forced us to leave your civilization. You pushed us into the hardest regions of space. You thought isolation would kill us. Instead, it made us stronger. We learned to survive in places you cannot go. We built colonies on worlds you considered worthless. We allied with species you discarded. And now we have built an empire in the void you feared to enter. 2000. The hologram showed footage of the battle. Council, ships burning. Human fighters moving through stellar radiation that should have killed them. Adapted colonists fighting in conditions impossible for any Council species. This is what you created, Ji-hoon said. This is what happens when you try to destroy humanity. We do not break. We adapt. We overcome. We become stronger with every obstacle you put in our way. You could have had us as friends. Now you will have us as equals, whether you like it or not." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions watched and wondered if the Council had made a terrible mistake. On Earth, still behind the barrier that had held for a century, Admiral Taeyang smiled. She sent an encrypted message to Suji through the quantum network. "Well done. The inner system is ready. We have been building for 100 years. When you are ready to come home, we will be ready to break this barrier from the inside. Together, humanity will be united again." Suji read the message and felt tears on her face. Home. After all these years. Soon. The barrier around the Sol system fell on a Tuesday morning, not because the Council removed it, because humanity destroyed it from the inside. Admiral Taeyang had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. The barrier had been designed to keep humans in, but the Council had made an assumption. They assumed humanity would spend their time in isolation trying to break out. They never considered that humans might spend a century studying the barrier, understanding it, and building weapons specifically designed to tear it apart from within. The attack came from 1,000 points simultaneously. Every human installation in the Sol system fired at once. Weapons that had been built in secret. Weapons that exploited the barrier's frequency patterns. Weapons that turned the barrier's own energy against itself. For 17 seconds, the barrier held. Then, it shattered like glass. Fragments of energy dispersing into space. The Council's monitoring stations detected it immediately. Alarms went off across the galaxy. The human cage was open. But the humans did not explode outward like the Council feared. Instead, ships began arriving from outside. The Pathfinder colonies sent fleets home. After 125 years of separation, humanity was reuniting. Empress Hana stood on the observation deck of New Busan's flagship as it approached Earth for the first time. She had been born on New Busan 40 years ago. She had never seen humanity's homeworld except in recordings. Now it hung before her, blue and white and beautiful. And she understood why the old ones had fought so hard to return. High Coordinator Suji had retired 10 years earlier, passing leadership to the next generation. Hana had been elected Empress of the Terran Empire, a title that still felt strange. Empires were supposed to be oppressive, dictatorial. But the Terran Empire was a democracy. Every colony voted. Every species in the Alliance had representation. The title Empress was more ceremonial than anything else, a way to present a unified face to the galaxy. The reunification took 3 months. Ships from 47 fringe colonies arrived at Sol. The inner system colonies, grown massive during the isolation, welcomed them home. Mars now had 2 billion people. Earth had 18 billion. Luna was covered in cities and shipyards. The asteroid belt was a network of habitats housing another billion souls. Together, humanity controlled 83 systems. The Alliance of the Free added another 34 systems under protection. The Terran sphere of influence was 117 systems strong. It was not the largest empire in the galaxy, but it was the fastest growing and the most dangerous. The Council did not know how to respond. For weeks, there was silence from the Crystal Chamber, where they had banished humanity over a century ago. Then they sent a fleet. Not to attack, to observe, to negotiate, perhaps, or to threaten. The fleet was commanded by a Vorthian admiral named Kelris, not Councillor Vren. After the disaster at Scorched Haven, Vren had been stripped of his command and exiled to a minor colony world. The Council wanted someone more diplomatic for this first contact. Admiral Kelris broadcast on standard frequencies as his fleet approached the Sol system. "This is Council Enforcement Fleet 7. We are here to assess the situation and determine appropriate response to the barrier breach. We request dialogue with human leadership. WB. Empress Hana met with her military advisors. Fleet Admiral Doyun commanded humanity's largest military force. Over 2,000 ships, combining the inter-system fleet and the returning colonial forces. He was young for such a position, only 50 years old, but he had grown up studying every council military engagement on record. They brought 200 ships, Doyun said. Enough to threaten us, but not enough to win a war. This is a test. They want to see how we respond. Then we show strength but not aggression. Hana decided. We meet them with an equal force. We show them we are not afraid. But we do not fire first. The meeting took place in neutral space between Mars and Jupiter. 200 council ships on one side. 200 human ships on the other. In the center, a diplomatic station hastily constructed for the occasion. Empress Hana entered the station with her security detail. Counselor Sojin accompanied her. He was Earth's new representative, chosen specifically because he was not diplomatic. He was a hardliner who believed the Council owed humanity more than just recognition. He believed they owed reparations for a century of imprisonment. Admiral Kelris appeared as a column of water held together by silver rings, just like the speaker who had banished humanity so long ago. Hannah wondered if that was intentional. A reminder of where this all started. You have violated the terms of your banishment, Kelris said without greeting. The banishment was unjust, Hannah replied calmly. You imprisoned us for crimes we did not commit. For being too successful. For growing too quickly. You tried to contain us. It did not work. You have built an empire outside council authority. You have allied with restricted species. You have colonized regions in violation of galactic treaties. Counselor Sojin laughed. It was not a friendly sound. Galactic treaties we were not allowed to participate in. Regions you declared worthless and abandoned. Restricted species you were oppressing. Do not talk to us about violations when you are the ones who broke faith first. Kelris's form rippled. The Council acted to preserve galactic peace. Your species is dangerously aggressive. We have never started a war with any Council species, Hana said. Every conflict we engaged in was defensive. When you sent Vren to exterminate us, we defended ourselves. When you hunted our ships, we fought back. But we never attacked you. We only wanted to be left alone to build our own civilization. And now? Kelris asked. What do you want now? Hana pulled up a holographic document. These are our terms. The Council will recognize the Terran Empire as a sovereign power. All 83 human systems will be acknowledged as our territory. The Alliance of the Free will be granted protected status as independent nations. Borders will be established between Council and Terran space. Trade routes will be opened under fair terms. Borders will be opened. She paused. And the Council will issue a formal apology for the unjust banishment of humanity. Kelris was silent for a long moment. You are demanding to be treated as equals. We are demanding what we have earned, Sojin said sharply. We built an empire from nothing while you sat comfortable in your ancient civilizations. We have proven ourselves 100 times over. Now you will recognize that. Or, we will make you recognize it. Is that a threat? That is a fact, Hana said. We do not want war. But we will not go back in a cage. If the Council refuses these terms, we will continue expanding. We will continue growing, and eventually, we will be strong enough that your recognition will not matter. We are giving you a chance to make peace, while peace is still in everyone's best interest. The negotiation lasted 3 months. The Council debated endlessly. Some members wanted to reject the human demands and prepare for total war. Others argued that war with humanity would be too costly. The humans had proven they could fight in environments where Council ships could not operate. They had allies now. They had territory that could not be easily conquered. Finally, a compromise was reached. The Treaty of Two Skies, named for Earth's sky and the skies of New Busan, the two worlds that had become symbols of human strength. The terms were close to what Hana had demanded. The Terran Empire was recognized as the 848th member of galactic civilization. The Alliance of the Free gained protected status. A buffer zone was established between Council and Terran space. Trade routes opened under negotiated regulations. The apology was the hardest part. The Council refused to call the original banishment unjust. Instead, they issued a statement acknowledging errors in judgment regarding humanity's potential for integration into galactic society. It was not enough. But it was something. Councillor Sojin wanted to reject the treaty and demand more. Empress Hana overruled him. We have achieved the goal. Recognition. Freedom. Peace. The exact wording of the apology does not matter. What matters is that we are no longer prisoners. We are equals. The treaty was signed in the same crystal chamber where humanity had been banished 125 years earlier. Empress Hana stood where Captain Do-hyun had stood. But this time, she was not alone. Fleet Admiral Do-yun stood with her. Councillor Sojin stood with her. Representatives from every human colony and every alliance species stood with her. Councillor Vren had been invited but refused to attend. From his exile, he sent a message that was leaked to the public. This is not over. Humanity is a threat that will eventually consume the galaxy. The Council has made a mistake in accepting them. Future generations will curse us for this weakness. Some agreed with him. Most did not. The galaxy was changing. Old certainties were breaking down. New powers were rising. The comfortable order the Council had maintained for millennia was cracking. Captain Ji-won attended the signing ceremony. She was 147 years old now, kept alive by human life extension technology. She stood with the other Pathfinder captains, the ones who had survived. 4 of the original 8 were still alive. They were legends now. The ones who had broken free, the ones who had established the first colonies, the ones who had started everything. After the ceremony, Ji-won went to a memorial park on Earth. She had never been to Earth before. She had been born on Mars, just after the barrier went up. But her parents had been from Busan, the city on Earth, and she had wanted to see where her family came from. The memorial park honored the humans who had died during the isolation years. 18,000 names carved into black stone. The 4 Pathfinders destroyed, breaking through the barrier. The crews lost in battles with Council forces. The colonists who died establishing settlements in hostile environments. The price of freedom, written in names. Ji-won placed her hand on the stone and read the names slowly. She knew many of them. Friends, crew members, people who had believed in the dream of a free humanity and had paid for it with their lives. We were supposed to fade away, she said quietly. They thought the cage would break us. They thought a century of isolation would make us weak. They did not understand that humans do not break. We adapt. We endure. We overcome. She looked up at the sky. Stars were visible now, no barrier blocking them. Human ships traveled freely between those stars. The galaxy was open to humanity again. Not because the Council had relented, because humans had forced the galaxy to accept them. You died so we could be free, Ji-won said to the names on the stone. And now, when the galaxy looks at us, they do not see barbarians or outcasts. They see an empire. They see equals. They see humanity. And they will never cage us again. A young woman approached. She wore the uniform of the Terran Space Force. Captain Ji-won. I am Lieutenant Nara. I serve on the Pathfinder Memorial Squadron. I wanted to thank you. My grandmother was on Pathfinder 4. She died in the barrier breach. But because of what you and the others did, I grew up free. On New Busan. Under open skies. Ji-won smiled. What do you do in the Memorial Squadron? We patrol the old buffer zone. Making sure no one threatens our colonies. Protecting the worlds. Your generation. Built. She paused. Is it true you have never been back to New Busan since you left for Earth? I have been busy here. Helping with the reunification. You should go back, Nara said. It has grown so much. 3 billion people now. Cities built into the mountains. Orbital stations. Shipyards. It is beautiful. Your granddaughter is there. She is the mayor of the capital city. Jiwon had not known that. Her family had grown and spread while she was traveling between colonies and attending diplomatic functions. Maybe I will, she said. After all this time, maybe it is time to go home. She looked at the memorial one more time, then turned away. The past was important. Remembering was important. But the future was waiting. Humanity had an empire to build, an alliance to strengthen, a place in the galaxy to secure. They had been banished and had forged an empire of their own. Now, they would show the galaxy what humanity could truly become.